Initial systems check. Hope you guys are all doing good. Get started in a few minutes. Hey, what's up, Steven? Zorbius15. That's kind of a rad name. Sleeping Dumplings. Hello to you too. What's up, Jake? What time is it? Yeah, we still got a couple more minutes. Barry, aka Van T. Is it Von T or Van T? One more minute and I'm gonna get going. Hello. Alright. Let's get this waiting screen out the way. So this is similar to the setup that we had for like a couple weeks ago where I just free sketched based on some stuff I had downloaded. So tonight I thought I was gonna just try to do some kind of character exploration, kind of leaning heavily into sort of like the hippo, elephant, rhino world of kind of like meaty, wrinkly characters. Not necessarily going to do organics. I think I might do some mech stuff. So I looked up, I found this cool crab. I'll zoom in on it here. So I mean the elephants kind of go, I think we probably all stare at elephants. If you're anything like me, you're staring at elephants all the time. So, but I just thought this little baby elephant was absolutely amazing. The proportions are just gorgeous. And then there's like the hippo and the rhino. There's just some really beautiful stuff going on in their forms. And then I thought I would sort of oppose some of that stuff with, I found this crab, which I wish I had found a million years ago, but it's just got this wicked pattern going on its shell. And then it's, even to make it more interesting, it's got like this it's like a micro pattern that goes around the eyes and the kind of edges of the shells and things like that. So it's got this like secondary pattern going on that sort of almost acts as like a filigree. And I don't know if you guys have ever stumbled across this image in your research, if you've ever done research for horns or anything like this, but this thing just always kind of catches my eye as this kind of like real corkscrew horn. I'm guessing this is one of those things that happens when an animal's in captivity and they're not wearing down their horns constantly. So take it for what it is, but it's still a beautiful shape. I know that these are like those old like 80s portable televisions, and I used to dream of having one of those things. That would be super sick. And then I just sort of grabbed like a random deep sea jellyfish, which I thought was pretty cool. It had this like nice carapace. Definitely looks a little bit like a condom, but we're just gonna kind of glaze over that. But it has really cool like variations between sort of like internal stuff, external stuff, and then transparent stuff. And we'll see if there's a way we can use some of that. So that, I think, let's fit. I think that's where I'm going to start tonight. And I'll try and stick to it. It's because it is I think the idea is like, you want to do kind of like an elephant creature, but is there like a more unique way to kind of approach it so that it doesn't, come across quite so obvious? And every time I say something like that, then I usually do something obvious, but I'm going to try not to. Alright, so who else we got joining us? We got Mao, M-A-O, Simula Abraham. What's up? Virtual SG's out. Magdalena's back. Awesome. Cool. And Casper's here. Cool. Alright, so let me lock all these layers because I'll inevitably draw on those layers. And we'll get going with some sort of rough here. And I'm a little worn out for today. Just a full day's worth of work, so if I mess up a little bit at the beginning, we'll find something. Hey BG, thanks for coming out. Alright, so definitely I'm going to start with just kind of like an overall kind of like fun silhouette. I want a big volume, and then I want to kind of do some sort of like stumpy legs. So let's get some little general perspective going on here, because this I think is I'm gonna attempt to start with mech, which is always a bad idea. Warm up mech. So let's see. I don't want to go too heavy into the ape thing like I did last week, even though it's one of my favorite shapes. But I think we can get something new. Hey, you looking closer? So I'm just thinking through this thing a little bit. I want to make sure that it's got kind of like the cool front heavy thing. Maybe we could get the like rhino horn thing going on, and then get a bit more mechanical back here. Yeah, I mean that could be kind of a cool balance. I think that's starting to say something to me. Do like a little horn there. And I want to get that. I like that television screen and some of these like knobs and stuff. So I don't know if I'm going to actually break out the perspective tools tonight, but I might. Gets a little sterile sometimes, but you can still just use them as guides. And I think just do like a slight indication of like kind of tusky shapes here where maybe. I'm not sure exactly what those are going to be. There's going to be something there, I think. I don't know if they're going to be directly tusk shapes or if we're just going to abandon that and go something more interesting. I do this like squirrely thing when I know I'm going to put tech somewhere where I just imagine like there's just tons of clusters of little tech pieces. Hey Justin, thanks for coming up. Yeah, tonight is going to be a little bit of free sketching, so if I get quiet, you guys definitely have to help me out and just throw some questions up so I can kind of get back on track of talking if I get silent. And I think I've already mentioned it when I do text. Sometimes I get into kind of like a quiet mode because I'm kind of thinking about like how the shapes work. So do kind of like a nice back leg thing here. Maybe we'll do like a little almost like wishbone thing at the hip. Be kind of cool. So wrap that around there. Thanks for ordering up the shirts and the stickers and all that stuff. That's awesome. I just sent some stuff out today and the other day, so hopefully those orders are going out. I really appreciate that support. That goes a ton of a long way. Kind of make it so I can do more of this stuff and less stuff for other people. So I really, really appreciate it. It's perfect for those holiday cards. Everybody gets dressed up in skull shirts. Whatever. All right. I'm starting to like this hinge thing that I'm going to do on the back here. It's like a little car suspension thing, and then for the front leg, I go a little bit different. It does kind of have a car vibe to it now, which is kind of hilarious. Oh, how's that challenge going? I think you started talking about it where you had to do like a bunch of designs. It's like 12 designs or something like that. I don't remember exactly how many, but it was like more than anybody should have to do for a challenge. You guys winning that battle? I like this horn shape, but I'm not. 10 aliens. That's right. 10 aliens. It's a good challenge. I'm guessing it's much more about the ideation than it is about the spit and polish of them, which is always a good thing. So I like that horn, but I don't like that it doesn't really make sense. So I think we'll make it like a shield visor thing. Just don't want it upright. I watch a lot of Adam Savage's videos. He loves getting that stuff. Hopefully he gets a kick out of it. That'll be cool. And then it needs some cargo or something on the back here. TVs that have like the forward shield type thing. asymmetrical tech up here. Okay. It's a weird thing, but I think nice. I'm glad you guys are drawing along. That's awesome. We can all keep each other company while we're drawing. Alright, so let's use that as our rough. And just because it's tech, I'm going to do a little... Sometimes with like the organic characters, I just like want to jump in. But I think I want to refine a little bit of some of this joint stuff and just figure out exactly what I want to do with it. So I know like I want to have this little like wishbone on there, some sort of piston action. This is the stuff I kind of love to get lost in and try and pretend like I'm actually a designer of some of this stuff, even though nobody would let me near their designs of real machinery. I think that's smart. Oh, right. The when you say like replicate this kind of knowledge, are you talking about like the? Oh yeah, it's like animal watching. Yeah, it's. I like I've probably said it a million times, but I really get a lot out of drawing animals. Even just watching videos of them like running around doing random things. Get so many ideas from it. What I really like about things like elephants and hippos is playing with like just the weight, that gravity, that it sort of like embodies like everything about them. It sort of gives them like the extreme sense of permanence, even though I know that's not what's really going on. T-shirt. Mechanical stuff is difficult. There's just no getting around it. I mean, people are good at it. It's really difficult, but you know, there's a joy in it. You know, there's that part of you that like to play with Tonka trucks or likes to toy with cars, and that feeds into this. Is just that, you know, like I like to work on cars, and I really get more out of actually working on them than I do kind of making them perform. You know, racing them and all that stuff is a lot of fun, or going four-wheeling after I kind of build a rig or something like that. I really enjoy that, but what I really like is working on them and just kind of, you know, customizing them and doing all that stuff. And I think that stuff it's that mindset you get into. I build a lot of model kits, and it's just like that really fun way to explore mechanisms. And I think I just like the functionality and how it actually, you know, when they say like function over fashion versus fashion over function, which is always kind of a thing. It's always I don't know if you guys have ever heard that before, but what you're designing for, whether it's more important that it looks good or if it's more important that it functions. And I think what I'm fascinated by is like really good function is beautiful. You know, it's just so beautiful. You're inspired. Oh, you're inspired by something and getting the crystals going, and plants. That's awesome. Yeah, crystals are fun because they're like a nice little gateway of doing hard edge stuff, but still having like a really organic quality to them. So that if they're a little wonky or something like that, it just adds to it. It looks so much better because of that wonkiness. So yeah, I think crystals are fun. I'm not a big fantasy guy. I obviously lean towards sci-fi. Of that, it's been made perfectly plain, but all the stuff that I like to draw. But the worlds and the shapes and everything like that are just really fun to play in. Let's just pretend like that's got one of those wishbones as well, even though we're not going to see much of it. And the nice thing about tech kind of like that is like you get a certain amount of functionality going, and then you can just start just pretending, like just jamming tech in and hoses and things. I do that all the time. There's a lot of artists out there who do that, where there's just this point where like you got the overall, it's like you got buy-in. Everybody believes that it will work, and then now it's time to just start riffing and just doing hilarious stuff that doesn't really make any sense, but nobody cares because the sort of soul of it works. I'm gonna let you sort that one out. Oh, I'll have to go check out that caricature. That's cool. If you want to, Justin, just go ahead and put the link to it in the chat, and anybody who was interested in checking it out can go see it. Yeah, kind of digging these legs. I like the kind of like car motif. Get a little extra secondary piston going on here. This little cargo box going. Let's see, that's my horizon. Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you. You just never know when you're making this stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see if we can cause a little bit of clutter up here. Do some strapping. I'm already breaking my perspective. I like wonky perspective. I like when perspective is like a little bit made up and it's not perfect. But when it gets like really wrong, it's not fun to look at anymore. You gotta be careful to like walk that line. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, gravity is probably the most important thing to me. Weight, and as I became like more of a cartoonist, I definitely focus on it when I'm doing my life drawing and when I'm training, trying to get it accurate. But then as I started to kind of cartoon and really lean into stylized work, I just really appreciate when things that are floaty and light and not necessarily realistic feel like they're still impacting the ground. I love it. It's a really big motivation for me. I might, but there's a part of me that likes to give the balance of kind of like, like you have something big and heavy, and then you have like these dainty things. There's that play where you start to challenge people, where something's uncomfortable because it's not, like if you built it that way, it would look a little bit frail or something like that. I think you guys have probably all seen my ultra skinny legs on my robots and things like that. Like, I love that mental challenge that it creates. I get the leg days comment on almost every robot that I design. Skip leg day. Skip leg day. Skip leg day. I feel like I should just write it into the post and then just like have some sort of like poll where everybody can just check it, because that's the first thing that they're thinking of. Leg day. Not bitter. You're bitter. Alright, and then we gotta get the rest of this little tech in here. Some random doohickey sticking out to give you a nice negative shape. Alright, good. Yeah, I've actually often thought of like tallying up the number of times that one particular statement has been made on my posts. Alright, so we'll just imagine these tusks are sort of, maybe they're not straight on like headlights, they're just sticking out a little bit to the left and right. So this one could be more front facing. That'd be cool. Well, I didn't know what I was going to be drawing tonight, but I'm glad I'm drawing this. It's a funny thing. Maybe a couple spotlights. Alright, we'll see you soon. slightly inset panel up here. And we can do our little knobs and bobs and things like that in there. Gotta have hoses. Gotta have big old hoses. Going to tanks, and those tanks have pipes. They have radiators. Those radiators have bolt setups. Just tech is hilarious because you just start like, you sound like an idiot just like making things up. But it's so much fun. Alright, and then what else do we want to do? We want to do maybe like a little bit of a rack on the back here. Do some more cargo up here. And of course the proverbial antenna. Right? Gotta have an antenna. You ever seen my canvas? Can you talk about? Flipping your canvas is not necessary, but what it does is, I guess one term that's been used is sort of like the italicizing things, where if you draw things in one, just facing like in your normal like left to right, or if you read right to left, whatever, you have a natural tendency to sort of see things, and sometimes they can kind of get disoriented. And when you flip it, just like when you see a picture of yourself in the mirror, if something's wrong, it stands out much clearer. It's a very, very fresh perspective. There's a lot of tools that you can use to kind of give yourself that fresh perspective. And if you flip the canvas, it's a really immediate way. It's a very alien way of looking at any of your drawings. And if something's wrong, it's very, very easy to see. And it's kind of upsetting when you first start doing it to how do I say this? When you see it flipped and it looks so awkward, you feel like you didn't draw very well. It feels like you really are, don't know what you're doing, and so that it can actually have some. I'm not gonna say negative, but at first it's really shocking to see your drawing flipped. But it's a really nice tool to be able to get yourself to see the problems with your drawings. 9 times out of 10, especially when you're starting out, there's a lot of problems at that time, and so if you can get used to doing it, then you'll be fixing your drawings, the awkwardness in sort of like the beginning stages of your drawings. You don't have to flip as much, and then the other thing that happens when you're doing the flipping thing is sometimes you just draw shapes better. Like let's say, like I can draw the ellipse on this right here, but maybe I'm having a difficulty drawing it on the left. Well, I can flip it and draw it, and then flip it back. And that's a nice little option as well. But the main reason is really just to find ways to look at your drawings before I post anything, before I show anybody anything. I put it on my phone and see it at a different size, and I'll try and like open it up like like an hour after I've made it or something. Like, that's not always possible, but like to put some distance between yourself and what you think the drawing looks like, because if you're like me, you immediately think that your drawing is correct, and it's not until you say no, I've been wrong about that every single time I've done a drawing, even though I'm confident that I got it right this time, and you flip it and you're like, that looks like garbage. So that's why to do that. All right, let's start making this into something. Where do I want to start? What about zooming? I do suggest not zooming as well. As much as you can. You have to. Especially when your hand starts to get tired or you're struggling with something. The main reason not to zoom in and out of things, and I'm not saying not to do it, I'm just saying be painfully aware of what is happening. If you zoom in on something and you spend your time detailing and doing drawings and doing whatever at that scale, you're not really looking at it at the final intended use for that. So things can be really wrong with the overall drawing, and you're doing this beautiful little section and then you zoom out and that's the only thing that's working, or you've just put a ton of time and detail into something that no one will ever see because of the scale. When you're working on comics or anything like that, you want to make sure you're kind of drawing at the scale that the reader is eventually going to be looking at it at, so you're actually showing the perception the way it's intended. And if you are zooming in and doing all these little details, a lot of times it just gets really clustered and busy, and it's not always the best way to handle that stuff. Everybody has their own way of doing it. There is not an absolute, but it is something to be mindful of, that it can really be problematic. All right, let's get a little drawing done while you guys are yelling at me for being so absolute about that. But I don't think zooming in is a good habit, even though it's amazing. Drawings do get stiff when you draw them over and over. That's definitely true. The flip things tend to get stiff. Yep. I agree with you. But I also have sort of solved it in that, you have to keep pushing to kind of keep that fluidity. But yeah, when you redraw something constantly, or whenever you see people do comps and there's just energy and it's exciting, and then they paint it and it's just stiff, that is a battle, and it's frustrating. But that's the challenge. You're not the only person. I promise you that. That is definitely a real challenge. Alright, I'm not going to start on that chest. I want to get into these legs while I'm a little bit fresh, and then I think I am gonna use the circle tool. So you guys, a lot of people immediately start asking me about this. Feel free. As much as I think I could probably hit my ellipses tonight, I'm kind of liking this design. I think I want to spend some time kind of getting some of these shapes a little bit more dialed in. This is going to allow me to do that. You can see that all I'm really doing is staying on a single axis after I lay out where this circle goes, and just kind of moving it slightly until I get... Did I screw that up already? It was fast. There it is. There we go. Happy little circles. definitely slows things down. You'd think that it wouldn't slow things down, but it does, because you're planning a lot of your circles out. So I try to make sure that I'm only doing it when it's necessary, and if I can draw a circle and then draw the details next to it by hand. Try not to overdo using the tool, is I guess what I'm saying, because you can it in itself can kind of take the life out of your piece, just because of the amount of kind of precision you force yourself to try and achieve, and it takes something out of it. So when I'm using this circle tool, sometimes it leads me into like new ideas of like how tech can be kind of layered, and then sometimes it just becomes really stiff, and I have to just sort of abandon it and start adding much more kind of like organic flows, because really beautiful industrial design isn't just straight up spheres and cylinders and straight lines. And so it's also important to recognize like when you're just leaning way too heavily on a guide, you know, you get away from it and let the forms be a bit more designed, I guess, than they are perfect. If that makes any sense. Okay, what's Virtual asking? So, no to stiffness, lifeless renders. By the way, does the term render refer to finishing? Can you define the word? Rendering is usually like when I'm shading and lighting it, and that's usually what I'm talking about, like when I'm rendering it. What I consider this is inking. Even though it's not, obviously it's digital, so it's not really in the traditional sense inking, or penciling is another time, you know, I'll often call it that. But like if I'm just like naming my layer, I call this my inks. I can call it my line work from time to time, but then when I call the shading and whenever I'm doing the lighting, any kind of lighting, even if it's very graphic, that's what I would consider rendering. I don't even, now you're making me question if that's even the right term, but that's what I call it. appreciate the compliments. I don't take compliments very well, but I appreciate them. I think I grew up around wood shops and tools, and just knowing that a tool is there to help you, and that it just adds to your craft when it's used well. It goes a long way. People get caught up feeling like they tools are crutches, and I think that really just comes down to the challenge that you're trying to give to yourself. If the challenge that you're trying to give to yourself is just to create really beautiful pieces, or a piece that you are convinced is telling the story, the type of story that you want to be telling, then bogging yourself down with whether you're supposed to be using tools, or if you're supposed to freehand things, or supposed to use reference or not use reference, that's I use 3D. If I have to use 3D, I'll make a model and I'll draw on top of it. I don't care, as long as I'm getting to what I hope to get to at some point. When I was working full time in the video game industry, there's a lot of folks who were just very hell bent on, like one way that something had to get done. One piece of software was better than all the other softwares. There's like a pissing match constantly. It's exhausting, and it does not create better product. Definitely does not. Flexibility is the key, and allows you to grow and not get bogged down in the wrong fight, I guess. It's always fun when you're doing these like toes, or whether it's a robot hand and they have a special kind of finger, and you got to do the first one. The first one is like the atlas of like how the rest of them are going to be designed, and inevitably you're just like, you over design the first one, and then you're just like pissed at yourself for having to do 12 more of them, or whatever it ends up being. Let's see, I missed a bit here. So it's like, feels like just enough to get the point across without suffocating design. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, you guys are trying me out with with compliments. I'm just gonna talk shop. Okay, so you clearly have a process where you use them appropriately. Whatever yields the best result is what you should do. It takes practice and understanding. Tools don't make pieces. No, they don't. I mean, we've all been to that point where we're hiding behind. My nib got twisted. Where we hide behind a tool. You hide behind a layer effect in Photoshop, or you hide behind throwing a bunch of noise on top of your piece so that it looks like there's more going on, or that it's. There's so many ways that you use a quote unquote tool to make up for what is lacking in your piece, and I think it's just important to recognize that like the people that you're fooling, you're not fooling yourself, and the people that you're trying to garner respect from, the professionals out there that you're trying to become buddies with, or just just share a love with, they know that stuff. They see through that stuff. There's so it's not like you can't do it. Again, back to the flexibility. I think everything is a gray zone. I add texture to a lot of my pieces and things like that. But I think the point I'm trying to make is like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it to hide something? Because who are you hiding it from? Are you aware that the people that are out there doing this for a living, or are out there doing this just for, like because they're passionate about it, they see through that stuff. So you're not pulling one over on anybody. If it's adding to your piece, then it's an honest thing to do. And the same thing goes with these tools. If you're nobody's going to be impressed that you only use these tools, or that it, because it does, it just stiffens things up. You don't end up having the kind of fluidity and the looseness of a nice kind of doodle, And so if you lean too heavy into the tools, I think you risk losing the kind of immediacy in your pieces. And just because all your circles are perfect doesn't mean that it's a good design. Unfortunately, that would be nice, because then you sorry, I'm concentrating on this like little compressed ribbing for the back of the foot here. Make sure I get that. It's looking a little weird. Visit that again, but we'll see. Alright, let's go. Alright, I missed one. Let's see. So about reference, I was listening this morning to a new Proco video, and okay, I'm going to skip the names because I pronounce things inappropriately and it makes me feel bad. And they went through all the basics, same month, few hours difference, and yeah, I mean, reference is just a tool, All of the great artists that you can think of use it and have used it in the past, the even classical artists. So, nothing wrong with it. It's just knowing what you're comfortable with, and when you feel like you need to start moving away from it. Okay. Start on this bag leg here. Yeah, I started doing those ribbing heels after I think I saw airbag suspension on Mack trucks. Do we call them Mack trucks? Big wheelers? 16 wheelers? I don't know. And they have like these cushion I just love them. And then I read an article where they were trying to determine how big animals, like big mammals, could pump as much blood through their bodies without blowing out the vessel walls, because the amount of pressure the heart would have to create in order to keep that the blood moving through the body was enough where it would probably rupture some of the arterial linings of some of the major arteries and things like that. So there was like this this quest to kind of figure out like how what was different about that mechanism, and they discovered that big animals and they sort of like proposed that even like dinosaurs that were even bigger would probably have been doing the same thing. That they do this little saunter. You can think of like the squishy parts of your sneakers, your running sneakers, and they would do this little saunter where they press on their feet just a little bit. They don't necessarily have to pick up their feet, but they squish the pads of their feet, and it helps to kind of keep that blood flow going. And I made this kind of like mental connection where like it reminded me of those airbags, and I always liked on big heavy mechs and things like that having that kind of like worked in a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Like all those like the giraffe thing, like when you hear about like those strange mechanisms, like that's fuel for us, right? That's everything. Like you hear about that and people are like, oh, that's cool, and like you're just like popping them into place for later use. Elephants are the best. I love elephants. I should have named it Lost Elephant one instead of Lost Bear Studios. They're just amazing creatures. Get back to using the tool again here on this outer cylinder. Let's see. There's this part of using the tools that once you make one cylinder look good, you do have to like recognize like that means a lot of cylinders have to look good. Whereas if you do all your cylinders and they're a little bit wonky, but they're all wonky, then like it's whatever. They all can be wonky. But if you have like one really good one and then the rest are all wonky, it makes them look wonky. So that's nice. Just realize we never finished this little joint up here. Oh, thanks. Regarding cylinders, yes, you hold yourself to whatever standards the best is. Makes it difficult. Yep. It's the nice thing about stylized work is the flares and the ability to make things look a little goofy once in a while is a nice release from that rigidity. And tech is funny because like it's a very cumulative process where the more you add, it's not always better, but the more you add, the more appropriate details you add, the more the piece starts to really come together. And as you start to lay down like those initial details, sometimes you're just like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. But then as the pieces start to get added in, it starts to really come alive, and I just love that moment. Am I okay with, oh, I'm glad you like the bunny butt. Am I okay with people doing 3D models of my work? I am. I walk a funny line a little bit with that stuff because I was a modeler. I modeled a lot of things for the video games that I worked on, and so I'm very critical of that stuff, and I design. I very purposely design for modelers because I was a modeler. So a lot of my concepts they are designed with a modeler in mind, and I'm thrilled that people want to model them. All I ask really is that you may always give full credit to the concept, and no matter where it's placed. And if you ever see it posted on another site, glorifying your hard work, that they retain making that credit known as well. As these concepts are hard to come up with, as you guys all know. And the other thing I ask is that you don't try and profit off of it. You never try and sell the model. That's for a lot of reasons, but I'm just going to leave it at that. It's just I hope that just makes enough sense. I had one of my, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Bobo the Seal, but he did a lot of the original Doom stuff way back in the day. Sprite stuff, and he's just one of the most amazing texture artists. And then he went on to being an amazing modeler, and he modeled one of my concepts, and it was I don't know, it was one of those moments where things kind of came full circle. Just such a fan of his work, and then studied it, and then he modeled one of my concepts, and it was just, such a joy. What my current day job gig is, I'm a concept artist, and so I'm working on television shows. I'm working on video games. Right now, I'm working personally on a couple of comics. I do board games, card games. I've done a lot this year. This is the first year that I've been out on my own, and but I'm leaning more and more towards television and feature at this point, which is what I really have always wanted to be focused on. Even though some of these games come across and I have a lot of expertise in the games, and if the idea is really solid, then I still want to be a part of that stuff as well. So I'll take on a lot of different things. Right now I'm in a point where it has to just be exciting. The team has to be the exciting part for me usually. The idea definitely is the big deal, but I'm very much focused on just working with people that I want to work with, really creative people. So it can be a lot of different things, and I just as often have to turn something down just because I don't think it's a good mental fit. But yeah, that's my day job, as I design characters for whatever project needs characters. That's the long and short of it. As long as I think it's worth working on. It's a very luxurious space to be in, because I spent a lot of years, just like you guys are probably all spending your years, taking on everything that came your way, and I did that for I put my time in. I did that, and now I just want to do the right projects for me, because that stuff, it adds up. It takes a lot of time, but you have to go through it. I think that's the problem with a lot of the questions that I get from people who are getting started, is they want that from the beginning, and I think you always have to want it. But it doesn't always come right away, and I may not ever be able to enjoy it forever either. But right now, that's just the spot that I'm in. Does that answer your question? I don't know if that does. Fan meets fan must have been pretty cool. Oh yeah, for Boba the Seal. God, he's so good. He started his own modeling studio for a while, and God, it was incredible. And I think now he works at Airship Syndicate, which is a really cool gig. And you guys haven't looked at any of that stuff, it's a beautiful company. So just getting the appropriate amount of wires and doodads now. I think I'll probably go through this one and do a little bit of a shadow pass as well. I can't talk about what I'm working on, Alex. I'm sorry. Everything is like, when you work on something, especially startup shows, it's not going to come out for years. and you're under strict NDAs not to talk about this stuff. Which is why I come to you guys for fun and immediacy. You guys are where we can all be in the present, and instead of waiting for 10 years to pass before your project finally comes out. I think that might be one of the hardest parts for me for working at some of these larger companies that I've worked in the past was the waiting for the project to come out. It was really difficult for me. Not everybody has that difficulty, but for me it was, I like that sense of immediacy. Is it hard to work on feature film from home? Yeah. I get a lot of grief for it. Well, no, I have the downside of I live in North Carolina right now, and that remoteness is also, that even when things were fine and there wasn't a pandemic and we weren't all isolated, together, there was this, can you just move back to California? Can you just move back to California? And I want to on some days when that comes up, but then, I look outside and I see like my big wooded yard and things like that, and I have to wonder if that's the best next move. But it is very difficult, but people have gotten really good at collaborating online, and they're much better at it and much more willing to do it than ever before. And so I don't think it's going to be as difficult moving forward. But it's not the same. It doesn't have the same immediacy. You don't just sit down at someone's desk. But I'll jump on the phone with my friends and we'll just jive about ideas, and you can get a lot out of those kinds of quick and dirty conversations just on Zoom or something like that, sharing screens. So it's doable. It's not great, but I don't really ever want to go back into an office again if I can help it, unless it's my own studio. So I'm making it work. Giving you guys the 411 on all my eccentricities. Alright, so I think those legs are in a good spot. Of course, I forgot the same thing I forgot on the last ones, is these little notches in here. But you can see, like, this is a good example of like not zooming in. If I zoomed in on this leg, I would go to town on a lot of these details, and that's not the scale that I intend you guys or anybody to see it at, so it's not a good habit to do. Alright, what are we gonna work on next? Let's do some of the body, and then we'll get into the details on that front there. Kaz were saying, okay, and then Alex said, I wasn't asking for specifics, I understand NDA, it's just a broad brush question. Okay, I can do broad. I worked this year on a television animated series, which is a beautiful show. Really excited to have that come out. I didn't do any of the primary work, it was just a good buddy of mine was doing all the primary work and was asking for help. So that was a lot of fun to work on that. I get a lot of satisfaction out of working on projects with my friends. So I don't always. Sometimes the work isn't like the designing the main characters or anything like that, and which is what I'm used to doing. But if I'm gonna be working with a friend of mine, like, gosh, that's just the best moments. You guys can collaborate on things and just hanging out. So anyway, getting off topic. So television shows. Working on another television show now, which I am doing the primary design work for and all the pitch work. Getting that one off the ground. That one, I believe, has essentially been greenlit. So that one, I'm looking forward to seeing that one kind of move forward. And then there's a film coming up in January. They're just waiting on final approvals. But then a lot of that kind of work is like early stage stuff, previs, where they haven't necessarily gotten greenlit yet, even though that they have budgets to kind of like work on things. And there's a lot of that work for us out there of trying to get pitches done, to kind of flesh out pitch bibles. And a second, I just want to make sure I get the overalls on this perspective right. Yep. Okay. So there's a lot. That's a really common place to get work going is doing pitch bibles for studios who are trying to sell their ideas to studios, and then if something gets picked up, then oftentimes they'll still want you to do the rest of the concept work. So I like to do that, and I have a few folks that I work with on stuff like that. And then I'm working on a video game, which is really fun. It's a really cool idea for a video game, so I was excited to kind of get back into it. And the team is really fun. And they're very open to input, which is what I always look for in a team. If they're basically just hiring someone to do their vision, strictly their vision, there's 1,000 artists out there that can handle that, and there's not really a good reason for someone like me to take that on, when they can definitely find someone out there who is probably a good fit for them as well. And these guys are great. They love exploring ideas with me, and I really get a lot out of that. And what else am I working on? Just finished a card game. Some cards for a card game. Think a lot like Magic the Gathering, but with a very different theme. So that was fun. That was more illustration work. I haven't really taken on much illustration work. It's mostly character design, so it was fun to actually take and do some really full-on illustrations. I'm just looking over at my screen here. Is there anything else I'm working on? And then a couple of comics of my own that I'm gonna try and get out off the ground. All right. Let's see if I missed you guys. Okay. Magdalena saying, I like that. Thank you for sharing that. The moment. Cool. How does pitch difficulty compare to design difficulty for you? I think you need to clarify that question for me a little bit. Like, do you mean like trying to get an idea off the ground versus just general concept? I'm not sure I'm actually getting your question. I don't mean anything else by that. Oh yeah, I have to keep my comics top secret. Otherwise, if I tell what my comic idea is, then I just feel like it's already done and I don't have to finish it. Casper's asking, I heard that comic artist needs to make a page a day. How long did you spend on a chicken robot zombie? Probably 3 days per page. That was part of why I did it. I wanted to figure out how long it took me to do pages, and I was taking 2 or 3 days. They didn't actually take me that long. It's just like I'd get a panel done and I'd feel like I didn't have the energy to do another panel. I want to move on to something else. I've just been like trained over the last million years or whatever, however old I am now, to get a piece done and then kind of pause. And so when I was doing this comic, the one that's in the Mindless book that you picked up, I kept finding myself like getting done with a panel and then just being like, okay, I need a break. And so these pages just took forever. And now I'm doing another comic and it's much longer. It's about 4 times as long. And I'm holding myself to getting 3 or 4 panels done in a sitting. So they are getting closer to a page a day. But once the panel gets really difficult, I have a much harder time getting that done in a day. I'm just not there yet. So these are because I have a comic that I want to work on, but it's closer to 150 pages that I've been writing for a long, long time, and I'm just not ready to take it on. I have to train for it, basically. But yeah, I have, like I said, virtual. I have to keep the ideas. That's my own little hang up. I have to keep them a little quiet, just because if I start talking about them, then the accountability to get them done kind of goes out the window, and I don't finish them. The line work in your comic is better than an average comic, so I'm curious how much longer it took you. I appreciate that. They did take a while. They take, I'm kind of drawing at the speed that I normally draw at right now, but the technical stuff, which is where I want to be telling a lot of stories with like robots and things like that, which is I really enjoy that stuff. It just takes so long. And then what takes longer is like you design something, like if I do this mech, you can see how long it's taking me to draw it. And then what's funny is like you then have to draw it at a different angle. And not only is it like hard to draw it at a different angle, but you have to keep referring back to your previous drawing and make sure all the mechanics are identical and things like that. It's comical. It's comical how much time you spend just like being like, okay, and this part goes here and this part goes here. And the comic I'm working on now is 16 pages, and it's all that. It's that on steroids. Just constantly looking back at things. So let's get some venting going on the sides here. So I'm going to do this thing, I like doing this, where you draw one vent and then copy and paste it a million times. And when I do this type of thing, and everybody does this, my thinking is that I definitely try and keep it light, like not finished. So I try not to finish the detail that I'm going to be repeating, because then I go back like I'm doing now and start to kind of individualize them a little bit, which I really like doing. Just making sure that they have each been kind of like touched a little bit by themselves. Then it doesn't come across as, just straight up repeating details. There are some styles where, like Maglia and stuff like that, where that quality just is like everything about the piece, like the repetition is just absolutely gorgeous, and seeing that makes the piece. But for me, in my pieces, I like to kind of hybrid it a little bit, where it's not straight up repetition every time. So like I could have easily done this like drop shadow as part of the repetition, but you know, getting in there and doing it by hand a little bit is nice. All right, let's see. Okay, so Justin's saying, when working on a given film or TV show, is it difficult to pitch ideas to a team or more difficult to come up with designs for you? I'm a little bit of a weirdo with my ideas. I always like doing really strange stuff. So I find that coming up with ideas for my own stuff is easier because I'm the last one in the line, right? Like I don't have to like get approval from anybody. And the more people on these teams that have opinions, the more likely it is to have a longer discussion and to kind of, you know, it has the chance of getting diluted down, or one of the designs that you sent over wasn't really your favorite, but you know, but that's the one they picked, so that's the one you have to execute, and that can be exhausting. So I think it's always easier to design for myself. But that's kind of what I was getting at, whereas like I really like to pick teams that are a bit more. What's really nice about pitch work is they want their thing to stand out, which is why I tend to like fall into that world so much, is because I like to design things that are really atypical, and so we're benefiting from each other. They want to show up to a board meeting where they're asking for a check with something that no one's ever seen before, and that's my dream. All right. Make sure I'm not skipping any questions here. Okay. Sharing the moment with the thing was not the long project, but the now anyway. I have questions about comics. I have been reading stuff, about structure, etc. What do you find the most difficult about making comics? What I find most difficult about making comics is the final executions, because my process, and I'll just give you I don't make a lot of comics, okay? So I need to be very clear, like there are people out there who are pros at this stuff, and those are the people that really deserve these questions, but I will just give you my 2 cents, my novice 2 cents. I always thumbnail out my what I call sugar cubes, which is like I do every single panel and the entire thing after I've written it, and that is designed to be basically like these little cubes like this. That's literally what I do, is I draw these cubes, and I call them sugar cubes, and then I just draw these little like stick figures doing whatever they're going to be doing inside of them, you know, getting into a ship. Okay, so they're getting into a ship, and then, you know, I'll write underneath them what's going on in that scene. And that way I have every single kind of like panel just very simply laid out. And then I can start composing my pages, and then I'll do the roughs of those, and I'll start figuring out like, okay, what needs to be seen, what's the best camera angle for this, blah, blah, blah. And again, you know, I haven't done this a lot. I'm still training on the storytelling stuff. I have done some comic work, but not to the extent of the pros. So from that stage, then you start having to actually make the pages, and there is a psychological thing where it's like you're doing it for the third time, and it's the hardest time. There's so many there's so much going into the piece now. You've already drawn it 2 other times technically, and I just, you know, it's hard to get inspired to want to draw it again. You know, we all fight with ourselves. Is it worth it? You know, you start changing your panels around. Oh, maybe it would be better with this camera angle, and it just that's a really challenging time in making the comic. But you get a few of those pages down, and you start to see the comics start to come together, and I think you get in a better place with it. But yeah, it's for me, that's the most difficult part, is just getting excited after you've done the same drawing so many times already, even if you haven't resolved it. And that's not really what I'm talking about. You've sort of already told your story. And a lot of written comics at that stage, and it kills me that I can't get past it. But I'm getting better, because I want to get past it. Look at that, I do that the wrong way. Alright, make sure I'm not getting too far behind here. Okay, so let's see. I answered that question a little bit. Looking forward to the next. Thanks, Casper. I appreciate that. I really appreciate all your support, man. It's been awesome. And then slip sync ships, yeah. Also, things you are copying in manufacturing sense would be duplicated as well. Going back to give them unique, akin to wear. Yep, definitely. Okay, good. I'm glad the pitch stuff makes sense. And the sugar cubes. Yeah, you have to plan it out. Planning is hard. Planning is such a maturity thing, right? Like it's so easy to be immature and just jump into a comic. I do it all the time, where I'm just like, I'm just gonna start, and then like that's just the kiss of death. Get this radiator going here. I did my very first comic I did on copier paper. I did every single panel on a different sheet of paper, and then scanned them all in and composed them. I mean, I could not have done anything worse to myself. It took me 2.5 years to make this 80-page comic. It was insane. Did everything wrong. And I learned so much from it, but I did everything wrong. Got precious about the panels, wouldn't redraw them, all the really terrible stuff that you're not supposed to do. We're starting to get somewhere with this little grill in here. Let's see. Sugar cubed. I'm very messy with my page comps. Yeah, they're ugly. They're ugly. I've actually found ones that I've done years ago, where I've sugar cubed out entire stories, and I can't tell what's going on. I have no idea. It's like someone else did them. So it's definitely something you have to be kind of like in the moment of. So you like look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's when Frank goes there or whatever, and whatever. But if you put it down and you come back to it, it looks like an alien did it. Sorry, I'm moving away from the grill for a second just so I can have a little bit of a break here. All right, let's get back to business. found that when I did roughs, light box tight together, and then inked, it all killed the vibe for me. The spontaneity was gone. I was just doing it for myself, not work. Yep. Been there. Kills it. Absolutely kills it. I don't really have a solution for it other than don't take it so far in the rough. You have to know what you have to leave for yourself. I definitely don't go too far anymore. But I definitely want the story spelled out. I want to know like what I'm supposed to be saying and maximizing, the composition. But I don't rough everything out like I have an inker. I think if you had an inker, like traditionally, like if you go back to like those styles of comic development, then you're gonna take things a lot further. But if it's for yourself, I think you just need to make the notes that keep you from making catastrophic mistakes and forgetting things and having to figure too many things out. Let me get this little piece of tech in here and then we'll jump back into whatever you guys are asking about. It's like a little manifold. This is why these like little moments are like why it's so important to like constantly be like stopping and taking pictures of like construction vehicles and doing like all the oddball things that your parents are like worried about you for doing. It's important to have. It's kind of like this mental repository of like how things can work, so that you can just kind of like invent technology as needed. Alright, see what I missed here. Was that Path? I was kind of hoping nobody was going to ask me which. Yes, Path was the one that I did on the copier paper. I've missed. Looks like I gotta go back in the Sure Cubes. Okay, yeah. So Path was the elephant and the bunny story that I did, and I want to do it again. It's like that kind of story. Like I know what the story was supposed to be, and I'm not going to talk about what the story was supposed to be. I cannot wait to kind of get back to it because I missed. It was much bigger than it ended up being, but I still like it for the soul of it, and I really love the experience that I got out of it. So, and I love the characters. I worked on them for so long that I kind of feel like I know them in a weird way. It sounds so stupid, but that's really how it feels. That story was originally started out as a story about my brother and I. We used to go on a lot of adventures together. worth it if you if you walk away smarter. Yep, definitely. I struggle a lot with consistency, particularly facial expressions. Anyone have any tips? I struggle with it as well. I can promise you one sort of epiphany that happened, and I've had this. I have the luxury of being able to talk to like people like Scotty Young from time to time, who's just like a god when it comes to this stuff. Like he's just so well versed in like how this stuff goes down. And when he was doing the Wizard of Oz stuff, you know, and you can see this in everything, you know, whether it's Calvin and Hobbes or Garfield or anything, that once you become familiar with the character, it starts to become second nature, like what they're going to do, what their facial expression is at any given time, and you just kind of get rolling. But it doesn't happen right away. It's a really, I don't want to call it ugly, but it's a difficult and very foreboding stage. But then once that ball drops, and all of a sudden you just understand your characters inside and out. And that did happen to me on Path when I was drawing this really difficult elephant character over and over and over. The shape language came out of it, and I just understood how to draw that character. I no longer had to think about how that character worked and what their facial expressions were going to be. It just made sense. And that was one of the things that I learned is like, when you're first starting a comic and you want it to be on model all the time, it's really difficult, but that does go away. Alright, I'm gonna just do the panels on this real quick. There's a lot to be said for people who work on the same comic strip for years. You know, that familiarity with the characters goes a long way to being able to tell the story better, because they're not thinking about the nooks and crannies anymore. They're thinking about the big picture. And so the story benefits from that familiarity. And they benefit from it too, because they're starting to tell more complex things with their characters and the emotions. Alright, we're getting somewhere. We're almost done with this guy. Let's see if I can catch up here. Oh gosh, consistency is the goal. Yeah. I honestly think consistency, you kind of have to ignore it at first. You do have to just kind of like keep moving, and eventually you develop the shape language of the character, and then you may have to go back and adjust the beginning. But I would say, like, my experience is that, like, you get 2 or 3 pages into a comic or to anything where you're drawing the same character over and over, and what that character evolves into, the simple shapes, the shape logic that you develop, is the character, and then you go back and you fix the beginning. Let's see. What's the difference? So Casper's asking, what's the difference between sugar cubes and thumbnails? Is the context? I mean, I treat sugar cubes as stick figures. Like, literally just, do I need, like, it's not really, it's much more about, like, I need a panel here. I know I need, well, that was not a sugar cube because it's not, I very purposely keep them all square, so I'm not dealing with composition. All I'm dealing with is, like, he says this, it needs to happen in a panel. Then this action happens, it needs to happen in the next panel, this panel. So I'm answering just one step. And I think thumbnails are the next step, which is when you start to arrange them on the page, think about the composition, you start to open up more about, like, what's actually going to end up on the page. But I think you need to know, it's really easy to want to compose a page too soon, and if you don't know the panels that need to be on that page, because it's not just about, I want to make sure I'm really clear about this. When you are designing a page, if you if you end up putting a panel on there that you realize does not need to be on there, you mess up your entire composition. If you need to leave on a bit of a cliffhanger so that the person has to flip the page, and you find that you have to delete a panel and the whole thing gets jumbled, to find that out after you put a ton of time into laying out your pages can be detrimental. But if you do these little sugar cubes where you're just figuring out the stick figures and all the essential panels, then you can really plan like what needs to go on each page, and you don't ever, well, you do run into that problem, but you run into that problem less. So that's the difference between thumbnails and sugar cubes for me, Casper. Justin's saying basically the same thing, but Greg refers to them as sugar cubes. Yeah, I actually do see them as different. I thumbnail and I sugar cube. Sugar cubes, I don't always do. I literally do this, like guy standing in the middle of a panel, two people talking, guy racing down the street in a car. Like that's it. Like just the panels that are essential. Then I'll start getting into like the thumbnails where I'm like, oh, the guy's standing here and I want to show him, like waist up, and I want to show him with a gun, because I know the panels that I have to design. All right, I'm gonna move on because I think I'm getting out of line here. Magdalena's helping me answer questions. That's awesome. Definitely need to work on the character building skills. Yeah, we all do. That's why we're all here and hanging out together. We're all in the same. This is like our therapy group. You develop an internal 3D model out of repetition. Yep. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be consistent. Like you just have to be comfortable with the character, and then you can start. It's almost like you start acting through the character. How long are you going for, Greg? I don't want to take off early, but I'm getting tired and I have to work in the morning. I have to work in the morning. I'm going to go till 2, probably 3 o'clock. You're welcome for the tips. And Justin's saying, I get the differentiating the sugar cubes and thumbnail thing. Yeah, good. Okay. That's just like a personal preference. It's not like that's how comics are made or anything like that. Like that's just how I make comics. And for anybody who has to bail, it's totally fine. Like I just draw, and then at the end of the night I post this up, and then you can just watch it back whenever. Totally fine. I'm super psyched that you guys even come out at all. Custom Baymax. You guys have no idea what kind of rabbit hole that is. Here's my camera. Alright, I'm gonna pause drawing for a second and I'm gonna entertain you guys with my Baymaxes for a second. You guys wanna see something funny? This all started because the toy was really nicely sculpted, but the paint job was terrible compared to like the damaged version. So I wanted like a damaged version, so I painted myself one on top of the toy, and then I started doing custom versions. So let's see. So I took Baymax and I did like this construction toy vibe. Got them all beat up and rusted and everything like that. That one came out. That was really fun to do. Just kind of like doing like alt colors, right? Let's see. Anyway, but here's where it got out of hand, and like I'm like embarrassed, but also like proud of myself. I'm gonna show you one, and if anybody wants to see another one next week, I got a bunch of these. This is my Buzz Lightyear one. Yeah, that's right. That's Buzz Lightyear. So that's Buzz Lightyear version. Put him right here on screen. Here, I'll just swap them out. Buzz Lightyear Baymax. And I have more. More than I'm willing to admit. And even more embarrassingly, I have a box of unpainted Baymaxes sitting over there under my desk waiting for this winter to roll around so that I can start more. So it's going to be... Some poor guy's going to find me dead in my house, rotting, and wonder what the hell is going on when I'm an old man. And they're going to be like, why are all these painted Baymaxes here? This guy was clearly crazy. That's how I roll. Sure, I didn't. I feel like I just put that on the wrong layer. Okay, I didn't. Whew. You ever do that where you merge the wrong layer down? Okay. Good night, Magdalena, if you're still here. Oh, you've seen... Okay, yeah. I did post them on my second Instagram. I love building models. I love building RC cars. I love all that stuff. Those Baymaxes take like well over a week each. They take so long. There's no live stream and that stuff. They just like I'm out in my garage with rattle cans trying to put those things together, sitting in my kitchen sink doing stuff. I mean, it's a hot mess. I will say, as like a slight justification, when I started doing a lot more substance painting, when I was modeling a lot more, it was really good to see like what materials look like in real life and try these things out and then go back and try and replicate them digitally. That was really cool. So doing the model building stuff was really helpful in that sense. It's kind of a different way of seeing that stuff. It's about as much conch as you can put on the front of something, right? miss any questions here? The Akira Baymax. All right, ask me next week, and I'll bring the Akira Baymax over. He's too far for me to reach right now. But yeah, that one I had to like order like motorcycle tires and everything for. All right. Yeah, I'll take you guys on a tour. Right now, it's like hot, like a mix of like hidden Christmas presents and boxes for all the shop stuff that I'm doing with all the T-shirts, and it's a hot, it's not, it doesn't look like a studio right now, but it will soon because that stuff's running low. And then I'm gonna clean out my office, get all my folding tables out of here, and go back to just having it be a studio for a while, and I'll take you guys on a tour. Speaking of what a workshop, loves watching the Lord of the Rings, but yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. Not as much as I love the Star Wars stuff, but that's where we just start arguing, right? Sci-fi has my heart. But man, that stuff is beautiful. Alright, so now we're gonna do the cargo in the back, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a little bit of shading on this thing. You'll see what I mean by that in a second. What am I missing? Okay, we got the back cave. Yeah. I like looking at all those movies for the production value alone, just so I can see it's just like watching art constantly, all the people that were involved and passionate about that stuff. That's part of it. My kids get so tired of me just being like, look at how hard that was to make, blah blah blah. It's like, shut up, ruining it. apart from the animation I said before, I am also binge watching Stargate SG-1, my guilty pleasure. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've watched that. That's an old one. Holy crow. Good for you. It's so funny when people are just watching stuff that I grew up on. I had my head down. 2 hours. Yeah. Oh, it can happen. Kind of getting into the weeds with some of these details here, but whatever. Whatever, it's my drawing. I'll do what I want to do. Alright, and I think the last thing we're going to do before I do a little shading on it is throw that rack on there. So... in here. Staying focused is the hardest thing about being an artist. We all are struggling with that, especially nowadays where everything's so bonkers all the time. And that is not something to beat yourself up about. That is just part of where we're at in this world right now. But it came out and hanging out. I think it goes a long way. Just even that stuff, just like knowing you're still trying to be involved with the conversations, and I don't know, I'm glad you're here. You'll get motivated, and then we're all going to be looking at you for motivation. I'm not gonna go ape on it. Get a antenna going. So I usually do this on a separate layer now, and I still like the pencil texture, but I don't like scrubbing it in with the same pencil. So what I've been doing is just laying over. Sure, this will make sense when I do it. So I'm gonna lay like a tone over the whole thing, just kind of scrub it in. And the reason I do it by hand still is like I like the kind of like tooth and the kind of like mark making that happens from this particular brush, the demo brush that I threw up on Gumroad. So I'll just cover like the whole piece like this, and I'll just leave the imperfections in as much as I can. All I want is like solid coverage, but I do like leaving some of this mark making in there. Sure, got everything. And then I'll just throw a mask on that, delete it, or delete it, and make the mask. And then that way I can use like a solid brush and I can just reveal that stuff. So I know that the mark's already made and it's solid, but I still get the tooth of my pencil. I like it. I'm guessing anytime I do something, I'm not looking up at the chat right this second, but I'm guessing anytime I do something weird, I gotta answer for it in a second. Alright. Can't seem to keep focused, chat. I like that you at least are coming out. Still working 40 hours a week at the office, so yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Trust me, I've been there. I took some good advice and make small, attainable goals for myself every day. That way you don't get frustrated. Yep. Jake and I have been talking a little bit about that. If I'm not a self-help guru, I'm still trying to figure out like what I'm doing in life. But I write down every single day, I've been doing it for a year now, of the things that I'm going to accomplish for the day. And they can be really simple stuff, it can be really complicated stuff, and I don't always accomplish it, but it's like I just put the list out there, and I just try to hit as many of those things as possible, and it just keeps me held accountable, because that's really what it comes down to with being a professional artist, is the accountability of, are you reliable, can you get things done, and finding ways to kind of trick yourself into getting things done. And part of that is just training yourself is to like be that kind of completionist that you want to be in those scenarios. So having a list, whether it's like sharpen your pencils and rearrange the erasers in the drawer, like it doesn't matter. It's about like, are you able to get some of these tasks to a completion state, And what I think is a more of a, what may seem like a mundane task, but is actually a very realistic task, is like organize your space. Well, that may be trivial, and maybe you're supposed to be working on something else, but it's attainable. And just by accomplishing something, just puts you in such a better place to be able to do the next thing, because you feel that sense of accomplishment, and you're just making these little steps. So I highly recommend just finding ways to keep yourself accountable for your time and using it wisely. That is very old manny of me. I'm sorry. I will stop, but that is my advice to you guys. Yeah, the separation stuff is difficult. If this is truly just for the joy of doing it, having that separation is important. I don't really have a clear distinction of the two anymore, because I love doing the thing that I get paid to do most days, which is a nice place to be. It can be very frustrating though, so don't get it too twisted. It can be, when it's something that your entire life is the passionate about and it's your hobby. It can be really frustrating when it's not going well, and that's okay. That's just part of the process, and that's not abnormal. This guy's just about coming to a close. We'll do something else after this. I guess the last thing I want to do to him is I'm going to add a little bit of a television screen going on in here. So I'll do the same thing where I just kind of go nuts with the texture, but I want to do it as a little deeper color. So if I mask that, I'm going to attempt to do a little like 8-bit on this screen a little bit. Something kind of simple but kind of fun as well. So we do definitely get into the weeds again, but that's alright. This should be kind of fun. The halftone stuff in Clip Studio is dead simple. I can show you it really right now. It's so simple. So I'm not going to do it on this piece, but if you it looks at black and white value. It looks at color values, whatever. See how this has like a gradient to it? There's literally this layer properties, and you just turn it to halftone, adjust the circle size, and you're in business. And then while you're painting, it's constantly updating. It's nothing more than that. And if you're cut out of it, you know, you can cut right into it. It acts like zip-a-tone. Oh, it's beautiful. It works really well. So if you shade something, it's gonna you can just turn it into zip-a-tone, and it has a lot of these. It has circles. You can tell the size of the circle. You can do squares. You can do lines. You can mix and match these. It's up to you. So it's not laborious. It's just it's just part of the painting process. But then it's just like this mode. It's something that they came up with to kind of like speed up a lot of the manga books that the people do in this. Still like the Space Invaders thing here. So I do. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I think it's kind of funny. I'm going to shrink those a little bit. I'm just going to keep doing this wrong. Okay, here we go. Alright, I'll just have to fill that in, I guess. Oh, it's because it's connected. Or not. Space Invaders. Alright. Yeah. I mean, this thing just shows up and makes everybody happy. Alright, so we'll get that guy grouped up. Shove him. Which way do we want to shove him? Oh! Alright, that's right, I unlinked the layer. Don't forget to relink your layer, kids. Alright, let's stick him. Do I want to work on the bottom of the sheet or do I want to work on the top of the sheet? I don't know where we're going to work. Alright, let's do a creature. What time is it? 1:20? I got time for at least one or two more creatures. Definitely one more, right? So let's see, we'll use the space up here to get something going. So this is when you can start using like the negative shapes to kind of help create interesting silhouettes for you. It doesn't always work. You have something down here, something here, and something here, whatever. So what can we do? Justin, thanks so much for coming out, man. I really appreciate it. Alright. Yeah, we'll work that crab pattern into something. Let's see what, but I want it to be like a rhino a little bit, or an elephant of some kind. So let's put a horn. Maybe we'll do like bell-bottom feet. So have a great night, man. This thing's getting away from me a little bit here. Hold on. Let me get this, see if I can get this back. I think I could probably do something with this. Something about the clustering I don't like. I don't think I like. It's kind of cute. Nope, just lost it. Not like that. Maybe it needs like a plump butt. Alright, now he's something. I guess when in doubt, add a plump butt. Yeah, most of my creatures are disturbing. And it's not going to get better, trust me. But I'll try and sell you on it anyway. Do a lot of creatures that fall into the category of a face only a mom can love kind of vibe. It's like a My Little Pony. See? That plump butt does it. I think I would play with My Little Ponies too if they looked like this. craggy, but not too scary looking. We'll do it like a crystal or something. I don't like that. I mean, I'd buy a toy that looked like that. What parent wouldn't buy their kid a toy that looked like that? Let's get some eyes. Pet monster, oh my god. I remember all that stuff. Baked into my brain. Alright, so we want to work that pattern in a little bit. I'll do that on a separate layer. About to make a one-trick pony joke, I'm sorry. I still technically want to make it. Alright. So it's like these, it almost looks like a little map. Like my mom used to be fascinated with these horses that were like splotchy, like brindle on the backs, like half white, half brown. They called Appaloosa. This looks like the pattern's on like a giraffe or something, but Probably worth doing his horn as well. This will be interesting to see if I can do the crystal in one. Alright, there's a little crystal action going on. Yeah, most of the stuff I end up drawing looks like it could probably kill you if you don't treat it nice. I think that's pretty cute. Alright, what's one more thing we can put together? We got tack. Do like a fish or something like that? Some sort of like... do a fish. Got this deep sea looking fish. I don't really know what that means yet, but we're about to find out. Here's this negative shape down here to help us out. Sorry, I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of thought here. What do you got? Let's see. Well, I definitely want to get the whole hippo vibe and rhinoceros vibe thing going on. I want to make sure that it doesn't look like either one, which is kind of like what a lot of this exercise is about. Like, I think what I like is, like, when I'm done with the design, if I feel like I get the sort of like impetus of what some of the idea was, but it doesn't look like I just drew a hippo and stuck a fish body on it, which is really important to me. But I like the weight, sort of like manatee qualities of something. I definitely want to do something sort of like deep sea magical. So I think we'll do some spines. Flowy bits. It's do like a jellyfish top. Do what we can to not make it look too phallic. It's pretty easy with monsters to have things go haywire in that sense. Let's try that. I think that could be kind of funny. There's nothing wrong with being, to draw right off the reference. It's just that's sort of like a personal goal when I'm designing characters, like using reference, but not not having the direct correlation. That's just my personal goal. Cool, I'm glad you guys are digging the design. You never know what's going to show up on the page. As a kid, I grew up on the water, and after some certain storms, the beach would just be covered with jellyfish. They'd just like all wash up. It was really upsetting and gross and strange, and we would go down there with like pieces of driftwood and try to scoop them up and throw them back in the ocean. But I was afraid of them, so it was really scary. Like you pick them up and then immediately you just start freaking out. My brother would always tell me that, you know, if you got bit by them with the rash that you'd get. Yeah, I got stung a lot, but it wasn't that bad. Like the irony is the thing that made the rash go away was salt water. So you get the rash, you get the burn, and then you just go soak in the salt water, and you're like the remedy was literally all around you. So. My mom used to say that to everything. Every time I got a cut, go soak in the ocean. Go soak in the ocean. I have to go down the beach and just like soak whatever wound I was bleeding from into the ocean. And it worked. Sure, I got all kinds of bacteria in me as well, but it worked. Moms are awesome. My mom was a nurse too, of all things, and she'd treat us like she grew up on a farm. She'd treat us like the farm animals, but then she'd go to the hospital and take care of all these people. So funny. Jabba the Hutt's larva would look like. It's not like you had the awesomest childhood. So we're rounding up to like 2 o'clock. I'm gonna wrap up this character, and I think that's gonna be it for me because I have a long day ahead of me, and I've had a long day, but I've still having super fun doing this, guys. So, but I wondered if you guys have any questions before I bail tonight that I can start thinking about now. If not, I'm just gonna keep working on this character, and then do what we do. That sounds so nice. We were supposed to go to Spain this summer. Guess what didn't happen? I'm glad you guys are still getting stuff out of this, because at some point I'm just going to be hearing the same thing over and over again, but oh good. Yeah, I can't wait to get overseas and have some fun. Alright, let's what do I want to do with him? I want to do the whole transparency thing. I'm gonna try it. Might look like garbage, but I'll just turn it off. So sorry, I hate making people watch me flat, but it's just kind of a last minute choice. Not really sure what it's gonna look like. We're into business. Virtual SG, where did you grow up in Massachusetts? Brockton. I grew up in Marshfield. Brockton. Marshfield. Bridgewater. Yeah, I went to school at Mass Art for 1 year. Spent a lot of time with my BU buddies over in Bridgewater. And, but yeah, I grew up South Shore, Massachusetts, down near Plymouth. I went to school in Boston for a while, dropped out, moved to California. Love it there. I don't know if I could survive there with these winters and everything, but I love it there. There we go, some internal guts. You should absolutely try this. It's super fun to make things transparent. It's just really pretty simple and really satisfying. Some jellyfish inspired weird hippopotamus monster. Right? That's what you guys all expected to see. Alright, that is going to be it for the drawing tonight. You guys have any questions for me? Anything you guys want to yap about before I go find a soft couch and decompress? Got a nice way to start off the week. Thanks. Really appreciate it. I feel like that needs to be a little lighter. I'm just going to drop the transparency on it a little bit. There we go. Doesn't take away from the page so much. A lot of density there. Cool. Well, I hope this is helping you guys still with the just even like the what I'm trying to hammer home with these sessions is like, you know, you look at the reference and there's like a sliding scale of like how much you lean into it and how much you just use it as inspiration. So I hope that's helping a little bit. Question. This is what you tend to do anyway. I'm guessing I'm asking you to talk about studying. Studying for just like getting better at like what you're working on? Is that what you mean? I might put this up on Gumroad. These are a little weird to put up on Gumroad because there's not really any layers. It's just me straight up drawing. And eventually I'll probably end up publishing a book and these will all be in it. So those, and then, I'll probably do digital as well. I just saw an error on my Mac. I get to figure out which layer it's on. There it is. Cool. What would people have thought if they saw that? Would you do this if not live streaming? Yes. Yeah, I do. I do get to the table to just free draw as much as possible. And that's why Creature Box was started. It's just this understanding that like both with free drawing and live drawing, that like I grew up surfing and lifting weights and skating and things like that, and like with all those efforts, like even if like you're not ever gonna be a pro or whatever, it's like the more you train, the better fun you have doing it, right? So like if like let's just use surfing for example. If you're just casually surfing, it's fun, but if you're strong and you're a good swimmer and you're agile and you've practiced on any kind of like almost any kind of wave type, then suddenly like it becomes really fun. And for drawing, that's really what it comes down to for me, is like drawing is more fun when I'm pushing myself constantly, and like I expect more from myself and I can see that I'm growing. Like that just, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just that training and wanting to always get better makes the journey more fun. It's when if I see like a goal and all I'm trying to do is hit it and then ride at that level, like for me, that's not enough. It's like when I see a goal, I'm trying to hit it so that I can put another goal out, So I find it really, really important to constantly sit down and draw. The live streams, I'm showing you what I know how to do. When I sit down and draw for myself, it's much more about what I don't know how to do. So it may not be, the end result of sitting down and doing stuff on my own may not be publish worthy or public facing worthy. I may never post this stuff on social media, but I'm trying things out. I'm learning game engines. I'm learning After Effects and Premiere. I still model in Maya. Let's see. I don't know. I did a ZBrush sculpt the other day of a dog that I'm working on that I think I might try and 3D print and turn into a little toy. And this isn't, see if I have it still. Thought I did a render of it, a quick JPEG of it. I'm only using it as an example. It's not an amazing sculpt, but it leads me to a part of a conversation I was going to have with you guys. So I did this animation that I posted on Instagram the other day of this dog running, just like a cycle. And animation has always been like really exciting to me. But I also know how to sculpt and model and things like that. And so like this sculpt is nowhere near complete or anything like that, but it's like what can I do with the things that I'm working on? Like what are the avenues that I can take them down? And so it's like training for me is like what can be done with what I'm doing, and they may never fruit, they may never do anything, but it's like understanding those possibilities, it just like expands the tool set. It's like having more tools in your shed. So, you know, like I do this 3D model, and the 3D model gained me more understanding of like how the character works. So then now I can go back, and if I wanted to explore that character or characters like it, I actually have a greater understanding of like how I would handle that form. And so I think training in particular is really important to push to see what you could do. And I really hope that you guys take advantage of your personal time to just see like what other avenues are available for you to try and do new and kind of like more exciting stuff that you didn't even know that you knew how to do. Because this stuff seems foreboding, and it doesn't seem like something that everybody can just do, but that's not true. Anybody can do this stuff. It's just a matter of just digging in. So anyway, that's what I have to say about training. Yeah, just keep going. You know, you'll never regret pushing yourself. Never. Cool. All right, well, you guys, it was awesome. I'm glad we got to hang out. I love looking up and seeing what you guys are talking about. I cannot express to you just like how nice it is to just hang out and do this. So we'll do it again next Monday. Obviously around the holidays, I'm gonna calm it down. But as soon as that stuff subsides and we're all through the holidays, we're gonna pick it right back up. So I'll just keep posting when I'm gonna do it. And if it's around Christmas time and I don't post it, I'm gonna do it. That's why. But that doesn't mean that they're over. We'll just keep going. All right, guys. I hope you guys all have a good night. Great week, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Nope. Not Monday. Monday I'm going to be on vacation. I will see you the Monday after that. Okay. Tuesdays are much better, definitely. Oh, I know. I wish. But I can't do Tuesday nights for personal reasons. Christmas moose. That's a good idea. I'm going to write that down. All right. Maybe I'll make that work out. All right, guys. Have an awesome week. I'll talk to you soon. Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was Tuesday there already. You guys are time travelers. All right.